Hello, class. This week we're discussing fiscal policy. This seems big and scary term, but it is actually quite simple. Fiscal policy is something that's created by our president and his or her advisors, and this discusses changes to either government spending or taxation, and that's it. So that's what makes this kind of policy kind of easy. Something we can definitely see working in our lives each and every day. The process works basically that if the president creates too little fiscal policy during a recession, the economy may stay in recession. But if that president goes out and does too much, we can also have inflation. And so there has to be kind of a balance there. And so what we're looking for is to correct the aggregate demand shortfall, which means we're not demanding as much things. And so we're trying to fix that. And so it'll be aggregate demand shortfall divided by our multiplier. If you remember the multiplier from our previous weeks, this shows it in action basically. And we can see how much fiscal stimulus is going to be needed. How we is sometimes we'll have a tax cut. I don't know if you remember President George W. Bush, but he made these great tax cuts. We received tax checks in the mail, and it was basically done so that we could keep more of our money. And he sent money back to us one or two times during a year or two. And his goal with that was that if he gave us money, we would spend it on new things. This kind of depends on how much we actually spend of the item. If we're in a recession and we're nervous about our future job, we may not have that marginal propensity to consume up as high as they would like. We may save the money instead. If there is less spending of this, we're not going to see as big of a bump in our aggregate demand. So we're basically not going to be helped as much. So the goal with this is for everybody else to spend their tax cut money and for you to save yours. And when when we continue to spend, that's what helps help us out if we're having cash. Also, to look at it from the other side, we're going to look at government spending from the other side. And so instead of increasing government spending to help stimulate our demand, we're going to talk about when we might decrease government spending. If we cut government expenditures to initiate a multiplier process to achieve the desired fiscal restraint. For example, if we decrease military spending, we could cause layoffs at defense plants, those that make airplanes. We do a lot of airplanes here in Wichita. Anytime they spend less on their military operations, we really see it here in Wichita. And that reduces our aggregate demand here as well. So it's kind of like a trickle-down sort of effect to where it affects all of us. And so anytime we see more government spending on the other side, we are going to enjoy that as that is going to help us to have more goods and services as well. This is along the same lines of the decreasing government spending. If we have a tax hike, it's going to reduce how much money we have to spend, which is called our disposable income. And so we have to reduce our consumption to pay those added taxes. And this creates that negative multiplier effect. And so it's doing the same thing as when the government spends less. So we talk a lot about wanting the government to save and really cut back on debt, but that affects us here in the short run. And so that is why it is not always love. I got my information this week from Brad Schiller's Macroeconomy Today. I hope you enjoyed learning just a little bit about government spending and taxes. Have a great week.